I've just completed a series on how I was able to retire at the age of 51, and it's been a real labour of love. I'm going to link to it at the end of this video, but that's not the point. Whilst making that series of videos talking about how I save money, how I look to invest money, how I had to change my thinking in life to be able to do it, I got a lot of comments, many of them positive about the message I was sharing, but others saying, I'm not like you, I'm different, I don't want to do the things you do. And many of the comments were along the lines of, I don't want to retire, I love my job, I love what I do. And I think that's, it's kind of an old way of looking at the world by saying retire. The world has shifted a lot, and there's all this talk of having side hustles to do just about anything in life. That's what the youngsters are doing anyway. But for me, it's more about the concept of, I guess, financial independence rather than retirement. Look, I've got to be totally clear and honest here that I worked a corporate job. I worked for one of the big blue chip British companies, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I know some people really enjoy the corporate world. They like the structure that it provides to their lives. For me, I just felt kind of caged in, hemmed in all the time. So today I'm going to share an idea that I had probably 15 years ago, that if I'd actually gone through with it, I think I could probably have retired, or more importantly, gained financial independence much, much sooner than I did at the age of 51. I reckon, thinking about it, I could have retired 2 years earlier. And when I say retired, gained financial independence. See how I'm making a subtle flex here to respond to all those people that said, but I don't want to retire, I love what I do. And I totally get that. But before I go into this, where am I? Well, we are in a town at the moment which is known as fabulous Las Vegas. We're here because our friends live here. So we always try and work out a way that the four of us can get together. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about what we've done over the last couple of weeks, because there is a lot of important context for this video today specifically. In fact, I would say that the last few weeks for us have all been about friends and getting together with important people in our lives. And I think when I share this insight of being with friends, you may well get something from this yourself in how you could maybe change your future a little bit, or maybe to think that, if you listen to me every week, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not normal, I should be like Neil. Well, it's been great spending a lot of time with friends because everyone's different, and I'm finding that more and more as I talk to more and more people. So before I share this idea that I had, I don't know when it was, 10 or 15 years ago, let me tell you about what I did last week with friends, because this was so interesting. What happened was, a friend of mine called Claire, she's retired just a few months ago, and I actually worked alongside her in my corporate job. Claire and I, very different people. Claire is very structured, organised. She's probably the most accomplished project manager I've ever worked with. She's quite incredible, to be honest. So she retired, and what she did as part of her retirement plan was to say to all of her friends, look, I'm heading over to Florida for 6 weeks, pick a week while we're there, and head on over to find us and celebrate this really important milestone with me. And if you know me well enough, you know I'm never going to turn down an opportunity for a celebration. Now what I'm going to do is double back on myself, because kind of going into a little bit of no man's land there. So what we did, we headed down to Florida to spend time with Claire and her partner Derek. And the other really good thing was another really close friend of mine, Karen, and her husband Russell, and Russell, you are also a really good friend of mine, whether you like it or not, they headed down too. So it was the 6 of us together for a week celebrating. We had a pool, we had a hot tub, we had just a lovely friends get together. It was absolutely fantastic. And I said, I kind of got new insight through speaking to people at length about the concept of retirement. And this is important. This isn't just me chatting about my friends, because I worked out that amongst us were a whole different range of types of people and views on this kind of stuff. So let's start with Claire. Claire, as I say, was the most structured, organised project manager that I'd ever had the joy to work with. So I said to her, right, Claire, I think she worked for that company for more than 35 years, I think, in the same company. Incredible, really, eh? So I said to her, how did that feel? You've handed your notice in, and after a month, let's say, of being retired, how was that? Was it a little bit disconcerting? Do you know what her reaction was? No, not disconcerting at all. I had this plan. I planned to retire at this point. I put all the provisions in place for it, and I retired. And it was one of these, I wish you knew, Claire, because you'd understand. It's one of these kind of does not compute. She doesn't understand the question that I'm asking her. And I think the difference between me and Claire is I come from a much more kind of emotional perspective on things, and maybe a more philosophical perspective on these kind of things, because I think about it and go, well, how am I going to feel about this? I'm very touchy-feely in that way, in a way that Claire is a lot more black and white. So that was one interesting insight. So another person there was Karen. Karen, again, I worked with. We were all part of the same team, to be honest. Best team in the world. That's why we're still friends today. And she hasn't yet retired. And I would say, speaking on her behalf, she could probably retire. I think she can afford to retire. Yeah, I'm going to set down the camera here and carry on talking. How do you fancy that? Where would I do this? Big Coke bowl behind me. Don't want to advertise that. So I think I'll go this way round. Oh. Right, I'm not going to sit here because loud traffic, loud music. Just going to head around the corner. Right, let's give this one a go instead. I think the traffic is quieter here. I can still hear music, but hopefully you can't. I don't want to distract you from this message. So, Karen, as I say, I think she had the numbers to be able to retire. I think she could do it, to be honest. But what she was talking about was identity, her own personal identity. Now, I worked hand in glove with Karen for many years, and me and Karen are totally different characters. So you may look at me thinking that I'm a bit of a extrovert. If I'm happy to walk around the streets of Las Vegas with crazy people shouting all morning, I should be open to meeting new people. Not really. Bit of an introvert. Karen, on the other hand, she is a networking guru extraordinaire, and not through the whole corporate networking thing. She doesn't do it to get on in life or get on in her career. She does it because she has a genuine love of people. Now, where I worked with her, we worked on a campus, and I think there's about 3,000 people on this campus, big place. And I couldn't go from one side of the campus to the other, walking with Karen, without stopping every minute to have a conversation about, she'll stop someone in the street, someone I've not even seen before, saying, how's your new baby? How's that going? Oh, yeah. She knows everybody. And I think this links to her situation of her work being her identity to an extent. So she's worried about what happens to her when she retires, because she sees herself very much as this person who knows everybody and everybody knows her. To go to a situation from that to, I guess an extreme would be sat at home just talking to the four walls. Now, I know, Karen, I know that wouldn't happen. So there you go. There's three different types of people. There's me, hated corporate world, needed to get out. Claire, she was corporate through and through, and as such, she made a fantastic plan for her retirement. She knew what she was doing when she was doing it. Karen, a little bit on the fence about it all, and concerned about how she's going to feel about all this when she does step away from the workplace. Now, let's move on to the partners. There's Sarah, and if you know To Go Rome or To Go Rome Travels, you'll know Sarah already. And just if you don't know us, incidentally, we retired 4 years ago. I was 51, Sarah was 49. We sold everything we own to travel the world full time. That's what we do. That's why I'm sat in a place like Las Vegas at the moment. This is our thing. We love travel. If you want to see more about our travels, then on screen now you'll see details about To Go Rome Travels. Head over there, subscribe, and watch us have fun. That's where all the fun happens. Here is where all the information happens, if that makes sense. So I don't need to say too much about Sarah. She also worked corporate, a lot smaller, kind of a medium-sized company, but she felt she didn't fit in either, and she used to be at home every evening in tears because of the stress of what she was dealing with. So she knew what she was doing, and she was happy to hang on my shirt tails as we exited the workplace. Now, let's move on to the other two characters in this story. Before I tell you that great idea that I had 10 or 15 years ago, the next person is a fella called Russell. Russell is Karen's husband. He is an interesting character. So let's just tell you a bit about Russell. I would call Russell a captain of industry. He was funnily enough, the large PLC that I worked at in the UK, he was, I don't know, CTO of that company. I'm sure in some way he was my big boss at the time when I first met him. And Russell is different again. So he's built this wonderful career and is well respected in large organisations all around the UK. So when he looked at retirement, he's only just retired, he looked at it through the perspective of, I'll retire and I'll do some short gigs, some kind of non-executive gigs to maybe be an interim director or do some kind of turnaround activity for organisations, which was good. But for Russell, and this is why it comes down to financial independence more than retirement, he's had a lot of health issues over the last few years, and primarily heart issues. And as he said to me last week, he realised that his work was slowly but surely killing him, and he knew he had to get out. And I think now he's taken a bit of space for himself, so he's not doing anything. He's not travelling the world. He's not thinking about his next gig or thinking about what hobbies he's going to take on. What he's thinking about is, I just need to decompress. I just need to relax a little while, and then slowly but surely he'll work out what the next phase of his life will be. And the last person on this list, the one that I guess made me think about making this video today, is a fella called Derek. So Derek is Claire's partner. They're a relatively new relationship, and when I say relatively new, I think they've been going out about 10 or 12 years. Shows you how long the rest of us have been doing the things we do in life. Interesting. But anyway, Derek came on the scene and Claire introduced all of us together really early on. And the first thing that I found about Derek is what a likeable fella he is. And I think the interesting thing for me is he came from a totally different world. So Derek is a painter decorator, and he's not just any painter decorator. He's this kind of artisan painter decorator. That is to say that now he doesn't advertise anywhere. He's not in the yellow pages or got a website or anything like that. He's got clients that he's worked with for many, many years, and they will only work with Derek because the quality of his work is off the charts. And a lot of the places he's working are like stately homes. So the thing about Derek is he loves what he does. And Derek is 4 years older than me, and talking to him about this, I was asking about retirement. He said, I don't think I'm ever going to retire. And I'm like, what? Why aren't you going to retire? He said, why would I retire from something that I absolutely love? He gets joy every day from meeting the clients. He enjoys sitting down and having a little cup of tea or coffee with them as he's working on the job. He also puts his earbuds in and listens to podcasts as he's working. So he's kind of feeding his brain while he's working, and he's with people, and he's getting paid to do it. So for him, it seems a ridiculous idea that anyone would consider retirement. I just recommend Derek, if he still thinks that, should try and get a job in a large corporate. See how he likes that, because I know Derek. I think I should have been a painter decorator, actually, and then maybe I want to retire. Right, so on to this thing. On to why this is all so important. About 10 or 15 years ago, my dad, who is sadly no longer with us, His biggest issue in life, he was in his 80s, and his biggest challenge was his garden. Didn't have a huge garden, but it was a big challenge to him. And the reason for that was because he couldn't get a reliable person to cut his lawn. That was his biggest issue in life. Now, he had actually much bigger issues, lots of health issues and cancers and heart issues and all kinds of things. But the thing that really got him riled up was the lack of professionalism in his area in finding gardeners. And this quickly became my problem. You'd have to understand my dad to understand why it became my problem. But what he would do is he'd ring me up and berate me on the phone and shout and scream at me. And I'd say, well, what do you want me to do about it? And he'd shout down the phone and slam the phone down. He was hot-headed on this subject. And I'd just come off one of these calls with him, and I was sat in my own back garden with a beer on a table looking out over my lawn. And the thing is, I really don't like gardening. Don't like it at all. So I had my own gardener because I thought it was a complete waste of my time to be mowing lawns. I could be doing something a lot more worthwhile than that. But I was sat there looking out over the lawn, and I thought, yeah, I come from... So he's talking about the lack of professionalism, okay? He's talking about the lack of reliability of the people that mow lawns in his area. And I thought, I work in a corporate, which is professional. Everything I do has got to be absolutely professional and perfect, because the field that I worked in, you couldn't really be slapdash. If you did, there would be significant ramifications. So I sat there for a minute and I thought, wouldn't it be good if I could mow lawns? Wouldn't it be good if what I would do is I'd set up a website, and I'd probably have set on that website a range of dates where people could click and they could put their name in there, and that will be them locked into the system, so they can go back there and check and go, yeah, this fella is coming on this date, so they've got that confidence that the person's going to turn up. And I could fill my diary, and I started to think, well, I could have 5 hours a day thinking about having to travel from point A to point B, going from garden to mow lawns. I could do that. And if I charged myself out at, I guess, £20 an hour, that would be £100 a day. £100 a day, and if I worked 18 days, because I'd need a couple of days to do admin and other bits and bobs and maybe work on the website. So if I did that, 18 days, that's £1,800 a month. Interesting. So then I thought, you probably work 8 months a year mowing lawns. You can't do it all through the winter as well. So 1,800 over 8 months, that'll be just over £14,000. And then it got me thinking. I thought, well, actually, we've got a plan for retirement. I hate what I do. I hate my work. What if what I actually did is I pulled that date forward a little bit by actually doing something like mowing lawns for people? So if I mow these lawns, I'm going to earn a lot less, but it means I'll get out of the corporate environment that I hate much, much sooner. Now, I'm having this thought, having this epiphany, I guess, thinking I could get out of this awful corporate world. And as I did that, Sarah appeared in the garden with a glass of wine and sat down saying, you look deep in thought, what's going on? Explained about the conversation with Dad and how he just slammed the phone down on me. And I started to weave this story for her, how I could mow lawns for old people in the area. And if I'm mowing lawns for people in the area, it'd be all little old ladies. And I'll turn up and they say, hello, Neil, do you want a cup of tea? Never used to get that in my corporate job. Oh, yes, Mrs. Smith, I would love a cup of tea, please. Do you take sugar? Yes, I do. Mrs. Smith, I'll have 2, please. And then she'd come out and sit down and we'd have a little chat about her grandson or something like that. And I go, anyway, got to mow your lawn, Mrs. Smith. For her, as long as the lawn's mowed, good enough. She's also getting a chat with a friendly fella like me. I'm telling Sarah all this stuff, and she said, but you hate mowing lawns. You hate gardening. And this was the crux. I said to her, I don't hate gardening. I hate working in a corporate job. That's what I hate. I dislike gardening. But I'll tell you, if I could get out of the corporate world, you'd be amazed how quickly I could start actually enjoying mowing lawns and gardening. So the point is, I'm not saying to you, set up a business mowing lawns. I'm not even saying that you should do something that you dislike, as I disliked mowing lawns. What I'm saying is, as I talk to people, everybody seems to have skills. So I said about having corporate skills, but some people are good with wood. You know, their hobby is turning wood at the weekend and making tables and chairs. That's what they get joy out of doing. And it might be that you think to yourself, I've got a hobby, there's something that I'm really good at. Could I earn money from it? And then if you enjoy your job, could you do it alongside your job, earn additional income that enables you to get to financial independence sooner, giving you the option and an alternative to retire should you desire? But financial independence is good for anyone. Could you do that? Or maybe you might say, well, £1,800 a month, that actually gets me away from the job that I dislike at the moment, get me to doing something where I've got real skill and something I get a great deal of enjoyment from. I just thought, actually, I remember a few years ago, I was at a craft fair and I saw a guy there with this big bit of wood. Like imagine a trunk of a tree, a trunk of a tree like that, and someone cutting through it, a cross section. And this was obviously a big tree because this cross section was like that. And what he did is he had a chainsaw, and he used this chainsaw to cut into the wood, and he could write names in there, and then he would burn in there, and then he'd treat it. So people were queuing up to get signs. They'd, like, if they've got a, you know, like the man's den in the garden, they'd have that on a, and they could put it on the wall. And he was charging a lot of money for this. And I was watching what he was doing, thinking, it doesn't look really, really difficult. It does look really good. So what was the title of this video? You won't like this. And that is, for me, I had an option to do something I don't like, and doing something I don't like is better than something I hate. So this is just a thought thing. This is me just rattling off again and talking a little bit random about an idea that I've had, and talking to people about different retirement options. Now, some people don't want to retire. Is this you? Could you move your retirement date forward by actually doing something you enjoy? Because you know that saying, find a job you love and you'll never work another day in your life. I said earlier that I'll link to that playlist of how I was able to retire at 51 and Sarah at the age of 49, but that's here now. Hope you found this video interesting. Do let me know. This is the kind of style I enjoy making, rather than having a script. I've not had a script for any of this. I'm just talking to you, although you were sat opposite me in this chair right here. I'll see you next time.